My name is Daniel Red, and last week, I went back to the house where my sister disappeared. We were twins. We grew up together. We did everything together, and I was there the night she vanished. People said she ran away. Others said she died. But I know the truth. The house took her, and now the house wants me too. I hadn't been back in 20 years, not since the night Mia went missing. But after my mother passed away last month, the house legally became mine. The lawyer said I should visit, check the place, maybe sell it. I didn't want to. But something in me felt pulled back, as if Mia was calling me home. So yesterday, I drove 3 hours into the old countryside, past the broken wooden fences, the rusted mailboxes, and the endless trees. When I reached the house, my chest tightened. It was the same. The peeling blue paint, the crooked porch steps, the large window that always looked like an eye. Felt like the house was staring at me, waiting. As I unlocked the front door, someone called my name. Daniel. I turned. An old woman stood near the fence, wrapped in a faded brown shawl. I recognized her, our next-door neighbor, Mrs. Halden. I hadn't seen her since I was 8. She looked at me with wide, worried eyes. "You came back," she whispered. "You shouldn't be here." My stomach dropped. "Why not?" But she didn't answer. She only said, "Your sister, she never left this house." Before I could ask anything, she turned and hurried inside her own home, slamming the door behind her. I stepped inside the house for the first time in 2 decades. The smell hit me first. Old wood, dust, and something faintly sweet, like flowers left too long in water. Everything looked untouched, like it had been frozen in time. Mom's old rocking chair, the framed picture of me and Mia, the hallway mirror, everything was still there. I ran my fingers across the hallway table. Dust, thick dust, but the strange thing, there were fingerprints in the dust, small ones, a child's I swallowed. It wasn't possible. Nobody had lived here for 20 years. A soft creaking sound came from upstairs, slow, rhythmic, as if someone were walking very carefully. My breath hitched. I wasn't alone. I grabbed the old metal flashlight from the shelf and stepped toward the stairs. Halfway up, the temperature dropped. The air turned icy. And then a whisper slid through the darkness. Danny? My heart stopped. Only one person ever called me Danny, and she had been missing for 20 years. The whisper froze me in place. It wasn't wind. It wasn't an echo. It was a voice, my sister's voice, soft, familiar, exactly the way she sounded the night she disappeared. I forced myself to speak. "Mia," silence, then thump, 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 3 slow steps from above. Heavy, too heavy for a child. I gripped the flashlight tighter, swallowing the fear rising in my throat. The second-floor hallway was darker than I remembered. The windows were covered with dust and spiderwebs, letting almost no light in. The carpet felt uneven under my feet, as if the wood beneath it had shifted. I slowly walked toward the attic door at the end of the hall. Shoo. The same old wooden door, the one I had nightmares about for years. A chill crawled up my spine. I didn't want to open it, but something pulled me forward. The doorknob was cold, ice cold. I took a deep breath and pushed it open. The door creaked loudly, echoing through the house. My flashlight flickered once, twice, then held steady. Dust floated in the beam of light like drifting snow. Everything looked untouched. Boxes stacked in the corners, old toys, Mom's sewing machine, and in the middle of the attic, a small wooden chair, facing the wall. I didn't remember that chair being there. I stepped closer. The floor groaned beneath my weight. The chair was tiny, too small for an adult, too small even for me at age 8. A child's chair. On the wooden seat was something carved, initials. M.R. Mia Reed. My breath caught. She used to carve her initials into everything, books, pencils, even the tree outside. But what made my blood run cold was what was carved under her initials. "I hear you." My skin crawled. The letters were jagged, uneven, carved in a hurry or in fear. I whispered, "Oh, what were you hearing, Mia?" A soft creak came from behind. I froze. Bay. Cold wind brushed the back of my neck. I spun around, raising the flashlight, but no one was there, only the open attic door and the dark hallway beyond it. A low breath escaped me. I wasn't imagining this. Something was moving around me. In the corner of the attic, a small metal box caught my eye. It was half buried under old blankets. I knelt down and pulled it out. The metal was rusty, but the lid opened easily. Inside were a red ribbon, a marble, a torn photograph, and a cassette tape. The tape had one word written on it in fading marker. "Don't listen." My pulse quickened. This was Mia's handwriting. Why would she leave something like this? I lifted the photograph. It showed me and Mia at age 7, but the right side of the photo was ripped off, as if someone else had been standing there and needed to be removed. Before I could study it further, the attic temperature plunged again. My breath fogged in front of me. The hairs on my arms stood upright. Then, the whisper, right next to my ear this time. "Danny, don't look." I gasped and stumbled back, almost dropping the box. Because that whisper, that voice, wasn't exactly Mia's anymore. It sounded distorted, stretched, like something trying to imitate her. A shadow moved at the far end of the attic. Quick! Silent! My flashlight jerked toward it, but nothing was there. Just darkness, deep and shifting. The wooden chair slowly began to rotate, turning toward me, creaking softly until it faced me dead on. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. Something was here with me, something that remembered Mia, something that knew my name. I grabbed the metal box, clutching it to my chest and back toward the door. The house seemed to breathe around me, its walls settling, floors shifting, whispering their own quiet warning. As I reached the hallway, I heard one last sound behind me. A giggle, high-pitched, familiar, Mia's giggle. But layered underneath it, another voice. Deeper, wrong. I ran down the stairs, clutching the box, desperate to get out of the attic. Whatever was up there, it wasn't my sister. A few hours passed. I stayed inside my apartment, staring at the framed photo I had found in 203. The faces of the missing family looked familiar, almost too familiar, but I couldn't figure out why. My thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock on my door. It was the little girl from the hallway, the one who pointed at 203 earlier. She stood there holding a lollipop, staring up at me with wide, unblinking eyes. "Did you see something?" she asked quietly. I forced a smile. "Just some old boxes." She shook her head. No, something followed you." A chill went through me. Before I could speak, her mother appeared around the corner and pulled her away without even looking at me. Don't talk to him," she whispered sharply to the girl, as if I had done something wrong. "What did I do?" I called. The woman didn't answer. She just hurried her daughter into their apartment and slammed the door. I stood there confused until I realized something disturbing. Every resident I passed afterward avoided looking at me. A man sweeping the floor turned away so fast he dropped his broom. An elderly woman who had smiled at me the day I moved in now stared at the wall instead of acknowledging my presence. It was like they all suddenly knew something about me, or about what I had seen. That night, I ordered food delivery. The delivery guy reached my floor. He stopped several feet away from me and refused to come any closer. Bro, just take it from there," he said, backing away. "Why?" I asked. His voice trembled. "Your building gives me bad vibes, especially your floor." He ran into the elevator before I could ask anything else. I didn't want to admit it, but the fear in people's eyes wasn't random. It was the same look I had when I stood in front of 203. That door was haunting them too. Later in the evening, I tried to distract myself by watching TV, but the static began again, the same loud, sharp distortion from before. Only this time it wasn't coming from the TV, it was coming from the hallway, and right under the noise, I heard a voice whisper my name. Slow. Wet. Broken. A jaw cob with a froze. I turned toward my door, and the handle slowly began to turn on its own. I stared at the door handle as it twisted left, then right, then slowly pushed downward. My breath stopped. Someone, or something, was trying to come inside. I stepped back, my hands shaking, my eyes glued to the cracking sound of metal moving. The lights in my apartment flickered, buzzing so loudly it felt like the bulbs would explode. The handle kept turning, slow at first. Then with a sudden violent jerk, click, the lock released. My heart hammered so hard it felt like it might break my ribs. I wanted to run to the window, scream for help, do anything, but my legs were locked in place. The door creaked open, just an inch, then 2, then 3, but nothing stood on the other side, only darkness. The hallway lights were on, but my doorway looked like it opened into a pitch-black void. A darkness so thick it swallowed the light around it. I whispered, "Who's there?" The darkness whispered back. A small breath, faint, like someone exhaling inches from my ear. I stepped back instinctively. My TV shut off. My phone screen went black. The refrigerator motor stopped humming. The entire apartment went silent, except for the sound of slow, dragging footsteps from the hallway. One step, another, but I still saw nothing in the doorway, just darkness until a shape formed. A single pale hand slowly reached out of the blackness, fingers long, thin, almost bone-like, and gripped the edge of my door. The hand tightened, nails scraping into the wood. Then a head slowly leaned into view. A woman, but not alive. Her skin looked waterlogged, swollen like she had been pulled from a lake. Long black hair dripped over her face. Her eyes were completely white, cloudy, unfocused. And when her mouth opened, water spilled out, dark, murky water that splattered onto the floor. I choked back a scream. Her voice gurgled as she tried to speak. Give it back. Give what back? What back? I hadn't taken anything. Then I remembered the photo from 203. The family, the missing daughter, the girl in the picture, looked exactly like. The woman reached a trembling hand toward me, her wet nails dragging across my floor as she stepped inside. Her voice rose, painful, desperate. Give her back. I stumbled backward, falling over a chair, crawling away as she advanced. Then a loud knock slammed across the hallway. Then another. Someone else was banging on my door from the outside, but the woman was already inside. The banging outside grew louder. My ears rang with each thump. My fingers scraped along the wooden floor as I crawled backward, dragging the metal box with me. The woman, the pale, waterlogged figure, hovered in the doorway. Her eyes were completely white, her mouth stretched in a gurgling scream. I realized she wasn't trying to harm me. She was trying to reach the box. I froze. My hand trembled over it. Give it back, she hissed again, each word soaked in a strange, watery echo. Then I understood. The box wasn't hers. It wasn't mine. It belonged to Mia. The voice in the attic, the handprints, the whispers, they were all connected to her. I whispered, I found it, Mia. I don't know how, but I'll return it. The figure tilted her head, almost like she was listening. The banging outside stopped. Silence filled the room. My heartbeat was deafening. I slowly opened the box. Inside were the torn photograph, the red ribbon, the marble, and the cassette tape. I picked up the cassette and held it in front of me. The pale figure shuddered. I pressed play. The tape crackled. Then a familiar voice spoke. Mia's. Well, Danny, don't trust the house. It remembers. It never forgets. The house, it took me, but it will let you go if you give back what belongs here. The cassette hissed and ended abruptly. I understood now. The house itself was alive. It held memories, trapped the souls of those it touched, and it was using the figure, Mia's reflection, to demand justice. I stepped forward and placed the box on the center of the living room floor. Slowly, the woman approached, water dripping from her long hair. She reached down, took the box with trembling hands, and for the first time, she looked like herself, Mia, pale but whole. Then she smiled, a sad, haunting smile. Ah, thank you, she whispered. In an instant, she vanished. The temperature returned to normal. The lights flickered back on. The house exhaled like a sigh. I sank to the floor, exhausted, heart racing, gripping the edges of the chair. It was over. The house no longer wanted me. At least not tonight. I stepped outside. The air smelled of damp earth and wood. The sun was rising. Birds chirped in the distance. The world felt normal, but I knew it wasn't. Because when I looked back at the house, the window that had always seemed like an eye, I swear it winked at me. And I realized something terrifying. The house remembers, and one day it will call me back. I turned, drove away, never looking back. But that night, when I tried to sleep, I heard it again. A soft whisper floating through the wind. Danny, we're not done yet.